would send out a script, and then we would hear back from cast, and we'd have conversations with different cast members about different scenes and different storylines. It always felt like a very collaborative process, and I tried to say from the very beginning that, you know, none of these words are carved and sewn on Mount Sinai. These are words. You know, make them fit into your mouth. Do with it what feels right for your character. Just don't forget what the stories we're actually trying to tell. And so we would play. You know, I tried to have an atmosphere on the set that was creative and that people could go off in different directions and find things, or call me and say, you know, this doesn't work for me, or I'd rather do that, or have you ever thought about this idea? But you know, maybe you guys can talk to how it felt from.
Well, we were talking last night about this very thing, and at the end of season 2, I got the script and I'm being sent down to the planet, and I am one of the reasons why I'm still in this business is the research I keep sending, as you imagine, the journeys Ty sent me on. But I happened to be reading at the end of season 2 a book that had just come out, a very well-researched book called Seize the Fire, which is basically about the Battle of Trafalgar and the English Navy. And I was thinking, isn't this amazing how similar this is to our lives on Battlestar Galactica? Because the Navy would leave home and go for years to make sure that their quality of life and families back home are safe, and then return after years, make sure everybody's fine, see the kids, and have more if you can, and off you go again. And but then I said that I'm getting sent down, so I called Ron and said, Ty would not leave the ship. He would not. You know, there are certain times when people go into in the Navy, they go into the port, and people stay on the ship. Ty has no interest in going down. And of course, because I think Ron partway through the conversation was going, gee, I didn't know Hogan was that smart because I had all these things. But they, you know, in the long run, they stuck to their guns and said, no, Ty, we want him down in the planet. Here's what happens. Well, look at the arc that was written for me down on that planet. I'm so proud of what we did of it all. But season 3, what we got into there, so. But there certainly always was the year. I wish I could think of a case where I won, but.
Yeah. I remember there was a point where Richard called, remember in the last arc, in the last season, when we were doing the thing with the quorum.
Yeah, the place where I basically try to get the quorum to support the overthrow, legally and justifiably so, of course. I won't go into that, I promise you. Anyway, yeah, you in a coup. You know, you take out everybody against you. And you have to, otherwise you lose. And if the reasons for the coup are justified and you feel that that's what you have to do, then you have to be willing to kill people, which is kind of what that scene was all about in the jail cell with Gaten, where I told him, people are going to die. Are you ready to commit and take the steps you're going to have to take, which he wasn't able to follow through on because his own humanity made it impossible for him to have to kill people that he knew and worked with. So anyway, I'm in the council, and I had to convince them to support this overthrow, and they were very unhappy with what Adama and Rosalind were doing. And so I walk out, and they basically were with me. They're supporting me.
In the first draft. They actually sort of said, yes, we'll do it. Okay, they were fearful and they were afraid, and they just decided to go with it.
Yeah, and I walk out and I say, kill him, and I said, oh. And I got to tell you that things, believe it or not, I mean, acting is acting, but acting, the things we do as the characters, we become very attached and connected emotionally to our characters, and I'm really, really connected to Tom Zarek for many, many reasons. And I couldn't justify doing that. And I had talked with Lon Moore, and thankfully, you guys came back with another draft and had changed that to where they were, against me. And the hard part was that really on the Galactica, the only people that supported Zarek was the council. Really. So I mean, really, the hardest thing he had ever to do, and I don't know if that was communicated, but he had to do the hardest thing in order to do what he believed was right. And the funny part is, generally people think, oh, they already made a decision, it's for his own self-serving reasons, And I thought, no, I got to be honest with you, I never played him that way, saw him that way. I thought he had been through hell and back. He paid the price. He had seen how good people can end up doing bad things for good reasons. Avatar really explored, that moral line and how easy it is to cross. And how sometimes the same guy can be a hero one day and literally do something horrendous the next day. So anyway, I was very thankful, but the scene was probably one of the hardest scenes I ever had to play, and especially the scene with Gator, when I had to basically do that whole thing. And Michael Angeles, who was the producer, writer on the series, really helped me a lot, came down to the set and talked to me and helped me to find a line to connect to. And I was trying everything I could to get behind that. And again, I was struggling, but he helped me to really find the right line for it, and it turned out really, really good. So